Dr. Parimal Swami. He is a diploma in preventive health, Apollo Hospital, Hyderabad, and he is also holding certificate of excellence in diabetes care, NIMS, Hyderabad. And he is a certified cardiac rehabilitation facilitator. He is from a one of the very prominent city of Jabalpur, which is the largest infantry and military establishment. And because of the Indian military, we are able to take a good night's sleep. So now I invite Dr. Parimal Swami to start his session. Over to you, Dr. Parimal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Please share your screen.
yes, sir. Is my screen is
Yeah,
visible, sir?
yeah, yeah. Please go
Thank you,
ahead.
sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for a nice introduction of mine. Good evening, friends, and welcome to this session on sleep and diabetes. In fact, 30% of our lifetime we spend sleeping. So sleep is not a passive state. It's just not a passive restful state. It is an active period of neuropsychological, physiological, and metabolic renewal. It is an important determinant of metabolic health and survival. We will see that too much and too little is bad for health, and the sleep quality also matters. How we sleep, it is not only the duration, the quality of the sleep is also important. Sleep and diabetes are inextricably interrelated. There are two problems with diabetes and sleep. Number one is sleep disordered breathing, and number two is decreased sleep duration and sleep fragmentation. When you see the literature, there is something like chicken and egg situation in sleep and diabetes. Sleep problem, they increase the incidence and prevalence of diabetes, and worsening diabetes status worsens the sleep status as well. First, we come to the sleep disordered breathing. There are multiple types of sleep disordered breathing present in a diabetic patient, but the most common is obstructive sleep apnea. Though central sleep apnea, mixed disorders, obesity, hypoventilation, and various parasomnias are also there. But the most important and most common is sleep disordered breathing, characterized by obstructive sleep apnea. There are multiple mechanisms through which the diabetes may lead to OSA or obstructive sleep apnea. These are altered chemoreceptor activation, decreased respiratory muscle strength, situation that produce airflow limitation, state of insulin resistance, state of leptin resistance, changes in breathing pattern and ventilatory rhythm generator, sympathetic hyperactivity, and defect in the hypothalamus pituitary axis problem. So these are various mechanisms which lead to the causation of obstructive sleep apnea in a diabetic patient. Again, when you search the literature, so there is bilateral relationship between the sleep apnea as well as diabetes. So diabetes may lead to sleep apnea through the weight gain, through the physiological dependent sympathetic activation and inflammation, and at the same time, because of the intermittent hypoxia, sleep fragmentation, there is more of inflammation which may lead to diabetes. So it is a bilateral relationship, as I have already told you. Now, the impact of OSA of diabetes, if we see the what is the role of or what is the importance of presence of OSA in diabetes, and you see that type 2 diabetes prevalence increases with increasing OSA severity. People with who are having significant OSA will be having 28.9% prevalence of diabetes. Severe OSA has got worsening of diabetes control. Similar to the conclusion of this particular trial was that increasing OSA severity is associated with not only the increased type 2 diabetes mellitus, but the worse diabetes control in patients who are already having type 2 diabetes. Now, when you look at the global prevalence of OSA, the condition is appalling. In fact, 1 billion people throughout the world, they are suffering from OSA, and out of those, almost 500 million people are having moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea. And India comes in the first five countries who are having the highest incidence or prevalence of OSA. In fact, the prevalence of OSA in India is 13.7%, a bit more in male and slightly less in females. Again, you check the literature, the sleep apnea is one of the most important comorbidities with obesity, diabetes, congestive heart failure, depression, stroke, and hypertension. In fact, long standing undiagnosed OSA may lead to the significantly increased incidence of stroke as well as cardiovascular events and mortality. It is also an important cause of vehicular accidents. Now, the feature of OSA, we all know that the patient may come to us with snoring, somnolence, choking, or gasping at night. There are multiple neurocognitive impairment, presence of depression, reflux, and headache. When we examine the patient, it may again range from, say, very, very subtle finding like obesity or short neck or a large neck circumference, presence of hypertension which is not responding to the treatment, and the features of right ventricular failure may also be there with the increasing or worsening severity of OSA. Now we keep on hearing about two things, the apnea and hypoapnea. Basically, apnea is the cessation of airflow for 10 seconds, which results in usually an 4% decrease oxygen saturation. Hypoapnea is decrease of 30 to 50% of airflow for 10 seconds. It may be associated with 4% decrease in oxygen saturation. The combination of both is called AHI, and the OSA syndrome is called when there is AHI of more than 5 per hour with symptoms. Here is a quick guide how to quickly screen the OSA in our day-to-day practice. It is called the stop bang questionnaire. Presence of snoring, tiredness. Somebody has observed that patient had got apnea, brief spell of apnea during the night time, usually the spouse. Presence of blood pressure. The bang denotes BMI of more than 35, age of more than 50, neck circumference of more than 15 inches, and a male gender. Three or more than three signs, they usually indicate presence of OSA. And at the same time, if we care to see the neck of the patient, a short neck, and ask the patient to open the mouth, and this the oral cavity anatomy, which is not showing a uvula, the tongue which is thick, large, and obstruct or not obscuring the uvula, may sort of guide us towards the diagnosis of OSA. The diagnosis is made by the proper sleep study, and again there are classification of the severity of the OSA. The normal AHI, the apnea and hypopnea index per hour is 0 to 5 events per hour is normal. Between 6 to 15 is mild, 16 to 30 is moderate, and more than 30 is severe. Now, again, there are various mechanisms like sympathetic activation, endothelial dysfunction, hypercoagulability, inflammation, oxidative stress, and metabolic dysregulation, which will lead to various cardiovascular disorder. In fact, the association of sleep apnea with a stroke is very, very significant. Not only the patient has got severe stroke, dense involvement of the body, but increased stroke mortality. How to manage OSA in a diabetic patient or in any patient? The mainstay of the treatment is the CPAP therapy, the continuous positive airway pressure therapy. Various other things like weight loss, avoiding alcohol, sedatives, and muscle relaxants before the sleep time, sleeping on the sides, oral appliances, and surgical interventions. They also lead to the amelioration of OSA. You may be surprised that various oropharyngeal exercises are able to reduce the severity of moderate OSA to the mild OSA, and they ameliorate the symptoms as well as the improvement in the diabetic status. So this is again a sort of a field which skips our attention, but again we should teach our patient these oropharyngeal exercise who is having mild to moderate OSA. Now, after OSA, we come to the sleep quality, the duration, and the fragmentation. So sleep duration is associated with the morbidity and mortality, and it is beyond OSA. A patient might not be having OSA, but if the sleep is fragmented, the sleep duration is not adequate, then the morbidity and mortality is increased. Chronic insomnia is around 33% amongst the adult population in India. With comorbidities like diabetes, it may increase up to 50%. So 50% of our diabetic patient might be having sleep duration problem or sleep fragmentation problem. The quality of the sleep may be abnormal. Again, this slide shows that India comes fourth in the country who has got worse sleep. So in both OSA as well as the sleep quality, India is in one of the comes in five top countries in the world. Now, diabetes is also associated with sleep disorder, not only sleep disordered breathing, but sleep architecture also. With the same amount of OSA, diabetes disrupts sleep more. It affects all the stages of restful sleep. It also leads to the fragmentation and micro arousal during the night time. This slide or this study shows the importance of presence of hyperglycemia, where the increasing hyperglycemia is associated with fragmentation of the sleep, micro arousals, and decreased efficiency of the sleep around 76%. In pre-diabetes, a slightly better glycemic status, the sleep efficiency improves to 86% as compared to NGT population, where in normoglycemic people, where the sleep efficiency is around 95%. So again, Diabetes is affected by OSA. Diabetes can produce OSA. Diabetes is affected by sleep fragmentation, and diabetes can produce sleep fragmentation. So always we'll see this thread of bilateral relationship between diabetes and sleep. Now, again, sleep duration is important. Short sleep duration of less than 6 hours and long sleep duration of more than 8 hours is associated with all the features of metabolic syndrome as well as chronic systemic inflammation. Also, the sleep reactivity is associated with the stress reactivity, and it sort of impacts the various chronic non-communicable disorders, the gastrointestinal function, emotional reactivity, as well as cardiovascular reactivity. And again, it is associated with increasing amount of events. Sleep fragmentation is also associated with impaired immunity, and this thing I think is more important in our present day scenario of COVID-19 infection, because impaired sleep, fragmented sleep is associated with increasing amount of IL-6, which may be a hallmark of worsening of inflammation with COVID-19 infection. Now, the sleep variability, the sleeping and waking up at different times, say throughout the period of 1 week or 1 month, is associated with multiple metabolic risk factors. Regular sleep schedule and consistent sleep is associated with a favorable metabolic profile. So we have to sleep at a particular time, and we have to get up at a particular time. If we change this waking up time or sleeping time, then it will lead to the adverse metabolic profile. Now, how to measure the sleep quality? You can do a proper sleep study, but this is not possible to conduct a sleep study, say repeatedly. So there are sleep quality questionnaire. Again, they are cumbersome and they may require sort of expert administration. There are various uh, mobile phone app which are there, wearables which are there, which are not very costly. And through this, you can sort of determine the quality of the sleep, the amount of the light sleep, deep sleep, or moderate sleep, the period of the REM sleep, the sleep efficiency, everything could be measured. Some of these apps or wearables are clinically tested also. Once you check the quality of the sleep, then if it is abnormal, if the sleep duration is not normal, then you try to achieve sleep extension. And again, sleep extension is associated with beneficial metabolic outcome. So if the sleep is impaired, if sleep fragmentation is there, you improve the quality of the sleep, you can expect the better metabolic outcome. Now, we can also use sedatives, which will increase the sleep time by 1 hour, but they are associated with addiction, risk of OSA in susceptible subjects, dementia, malignancy, as well as mortality. So, it is easy to pop a pill, but it may be associated with significant adverse outcome on a long term basis. Now, before you get a good quality of the sleep, sleep hygiene is important. Go to the bed same time. This we have to teach our patient. Comfortable sleep environment, the room should be dark and quiet. Some people may get better sleep with the white noise, and again there are various app or white noise machine are available through which some people can get a better sleep. The bed should be used only for sleep and intimacy, because again it makes a neurological sort of a circuit in your brain if you use your bed for some other thing like watching TV or doing a computer work. Daytime exercise improves the nighttime quality of sleep. Remove electronics, especially the smartphone and tablets, which emit blue light, which disrupts the sleep quality. Taking care of the food, caffeine, and alcohol before sleep. Alcohol may induce sleep, but it is associated with poor quality of sleep. There are various techniques to relax, which I'll be describing in short. And if you are having trouble falling asleep for more than 20 minutes, leave your bed, go to another room, and then come again whenever you are feeling sleepy. Now, there are certain sort of a non-pharmacological intervention to induce restorative sleep. The number one is certain types of breathing. This is called a praise breathing. You can get an app which is free from the Google Play Store, and through which you can attain a breathing where you take in breath and out breath in 5 seconds each. So in 1 minute, you take 10 breaths per minute. And through this, you can improve the cardiovascular activity and as well as restorative sleep through this type of breathing. If you do it regularly before the sleeping time, it improves the quality of the sleep. Again, the deep breathing with prolonged expiration, and at the same time, recruiting your diaphragm is associated with improvement in sleep, even in patients who are admitted in the MICU ward. The place which is associated with fragmented sleep, where you need proper sedation to induce sleep. Again, you use this kind of breathing, it is associated with significantly improved breathing as compared to the control population. certain mindfulness act, like feeling the breath on one of your index finger before going to sleep is associated with improvement in sleep architecture, and it prevents sleep fragmentation. So these things, which are non-pharmacological, devoid of any side effects, can be taught to the patient, and we have seen in our day-to-day practice that they are important.
Dr.
Now,
Parimal, you have a minute to conclude
yes,
your
sir, I'm
session.
coming to my final slides. There are certain sort of a technological things like brainwave entrainment, stimulating your brain through the headphone at different frequencies, which will induce a delta wave sleep. The uh, stimulating vagus nerve through your ears, then they are also associated with improvement in the sleep quality. And you can combine both. Again, we have got some experience of using these technologies, and they really induce a good quality of the sleep. So, at the end, I would like to say that it is a bilateral relationship. Sleep quality impacts diabetes, and diabetes control also impacts the sleep quality. So, with well managed diabetes, it could result in better sleep quality also. And finally, this is the defining slide from 2020, and it shows that sleep duration is associated with mortality also. A middle path is the best path. Too much sleep and too little sleep is associated with increasing mortality. Probably we are looking at a new treatment for diabetes, which is to address the sleep. Friends, we know both of these things, good laugh and good sleep, is important. So let us introduce these in our lives and as well in our patients' lives. Thank you very much for patient hearing. And I would like to thank Dr. Banshi Sabu and team for including me in this sort of epic event of 2020. Thank you very much, sir.